Hey everyone, welcome to the first guest episode of the Magnanimous Collective. I'm your host, Sean Kubota. Let's start off with a deep breath into our bellies and let it go. Oh yeah, dropped in. Today I have one of my favorite human beings of all time. He is a magnanimous man in how he shows up, his generosity, his tenacity, his vigor, his kindness, his way of operating in service. He owns a plant-based beverage company that has been ascending since I've met him, from humble pop-ups to being now in Wholefoods and Sprouts across the country, and he's going to do more. He is an amazing, swaggy, drippy designer. He is one of the men who is fearless yet kind and one of the best huggers of all time. He is the owner and founder of Good Vibe Society. Hailing from Indonesia, Sultan Agung Wimboprasetyo. Thank you for coming on, bro.
Brother, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And thank you for our alignment. I'm just so grateful being here, bro.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Bro, I'm honored to have you to christen the first episode. This is fantastic. And so, you have an amazing story to tell. Tell us about how you came from Indonesia, came over here to LA and how, I know a bit about it, but how you had that space of brokenness where you had to make that choice, that reckoning moment where you were like, you know what, I'm here for this, and how that how that all went down. Tell us about that.
Bro, first of all, building Good Vibe Society was now that, it exists, and just reeling back the story, and it seems like everything is already written.
Hey, I have a lyric that says destiny is a memory of what's to come. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
That's it.
And
I agree.
And the moment I kept asking, why am I here? Who am I? And why did you put me in LA from a small city, island in Indonesia to be here with no English, to start fresh, right?
Yeah.
That was the toughest, man. Back in 94. You already know, in LA.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, people were making fun of me, just me being fresh about, But those are the memories that now it's just making me stronger as a person, right?
Build your character,
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, 100%.
And I'm grateful for my parents to give me the strength, and taught me the valuable lesson of as a human being, and just always, I remember my dad was like, whatever you do, just remember to always be kind to people and make sure that you fuck up your last name, because you're going to carry, because you're going to carry that last name forever. And, don't embarrass me. That really,
shout out to Pops.
It's like, it's truth. You know what I mean? It's like, so, the time that I while out, I always remember that, I don't want my parents to worry about me. I don't want, they found out from other people that I fuck up. You know what I'm saying? So that actually gave me a lot of, kind of like a blueprint. So even though it was just, how the Asian parents, they show the love, but not literally like you want to hear. You know what I'm saying? Like I grew up in Western, all about, love and hug and kiss. We don't do that. You know what I'm saying? It was tough. I've never seen my parents kissing or never seen like hugging. No.
Yeah.
It's just like,
so I'm like fourth generation, so it's a little different.
Oh, it's different, right?
Yeah.
But I don't see that.
Wow.
So I was searching for that. And when it was like, when I moved to America, I was like, I'm opposite to that, and of course, as my pops, I think he's a provider, he's a man provider no matter what. And that, I saw that as like, really, it helped me to grow up, to become a man, what I'm saying? So, but,
an honorable man.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I always carry that. And first of all, I was surrounded by female, all feminines, like from my sisters, from friends and auntie, everything. So for me to express my masculinity was a bit harder because I always fall to that place, right?
Right.
Being really I did not understand about being in feminine side or the masculine side. You know what I'm saying? It took me a while. And going through the business, right? Going through the business, Good Vibe Society, and this really, it shaped me into a person who I am now, as a man, as a business person, and just as a human being. I wanted to Good Vibes. It's a beverage, but I want it into a more like a lifestyle. So I want to build where people can help each other and be inspired by and know the purpose of living. And I found my purpose of living, which is spreading good vibes, one bottle at a time.
Hey, let's go.
You know what I'm saying? So
Let's go.
that's actually what got me into this business. And going back, my teacher always asked me before in Indonesia, it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And everybody else wants to be a doctor, engineer. I said to her that I want to help people, but I don't know how. So this whole time I always try different ways, whether it's coming from clothing, from fashion, from creating my own fabric, from handmade, everything. So I started that. It's because I wanted to create for my own self, because my self-esteem was very low, bro. Like I was judging like hard about like me as human being.
Right.
Like I couldn't listen to my own voice. I hated my voice.
Go a little deeper about that. Like what types of things were you dealing with, and how did you choose in that moment of that insecurity, of that space of, not wanting to listen to that inner voice that was just like basically talking shit about you? Like, how did you choose to combat that?
Yeah. So when, start young, you know what I'm saying? So 'cause I'm always, short, chubby kid, growing up. And
I can relate.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, man, like I can't dress certain way like, other people. And,
Tell me.
But so I developed, this low self-esteem and I always judge myself, and the feeling of unworthiness. Those are the one, it fucks me up. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I always felt unworthy to have things, a nice thing. Every time I receive something, it's nice. And I always kind of stop and like, is this for real? Is this for me? And even like, in dating life, finding the person that I want to be with. And it really is, because when I met that person, whoever it is, I always judge myself. It's like, there's like a tiny of like unworthiness I felt inside me. So those are, it makes sense why I can't have all those nice things, So because I always judge myself first.
Yeah.
Even though that small thing, I met most beautiful person, inside and out. But when I met that person, I already judged myself.
What was the switch for you to feel worthy?
That the moment I realized that I always give so much to others, and I forgot about myself to love myself more. And I start asking myself, why? What is the root of this unworthiness?
Yeah.
So this is actually also the birth of Good Vibe Society.
Hey.
I was supposed to get married, but, didn't happen, which, I had to go deeper within myself and asking why. It's like, did I fuck up? I give everything. I want to make sure that, create a life for the person that I want to be with.
Right.
Give everything. But in the end, it didn't happen. I'm the one who got hurt. But in her version, it was my fault.
Those narratives, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I started looking for the answer everywhere else. But I forgot about myself, going deeper. So I started to ask myself, what is the root of this unworthiness? And while I did the meditation, what comes out of my meditation was my mom. So my mom, and I cried. That time I cried. And I confronted her.
Mm-hmm.
I asked her, Mom, what happened when you had me? Like, what was going on in your life? She cried, bro. She felt unworthy.
Well,
so the trap trauma that my mom carried is because she felt that she was alone, doing everything to provide for the food. Like she, working, doing everything. I'm talking about like cooking. Back then, Indonesia, we don't have, luxury right now where you can turn on the water, right? You have to use well.
Use a well.
So that moment when she had me, she had to do all that. So she felt unworthy. And I confronted her and she told me the story. So in a way, I'm actually also helping her to release that, the unworthiness. So now I know the unworthiness, where it came from. It was literally passed down from my mom. So I forgive her, and she started to also heal herself as well. And after that, I start just going deeper within myself, and I'm not judging myself anymore. I knew that the unworthiness. It took me a while to work with that trap trauma or the emotion as well, and so I started just loving myself more, meaning doing everything by myself.
Oh, okay. See,
Yes.
I was going to ask you, I feel like this story of our parents having unworthiness, in my opinion, from what I've seen, is that humanity as a whole has a deep wound with unworthiness, whether that's passed down from
Ancestors.
Yeah, and just
Family.
religious dogma and so
Yeah.
forth. There's this narrative where we're supposed to be less than our divine parent, that we're not meant for more, and to think that's blasphemy. It's take that topic out of your head immediately,
yeah.
that belief. And it's but if you want your kids to be better than you want them to have a better life than you, why wouldn't your divine parent want the same? And so if anything, there's actually a giant responsibility for you to actually show up to that place. But It's so much easier to play this BS game that we're we're less than, and no, I'm not meant to be great because I'm not supposed to be.
Right.
And so wherever it comes, there's so many reasons for us to create that narrative, but it's interesting. I'm curious to hear how you actually were like you said, you did stuff on your own, which is something that I'm currently doing myself after separating from my partner of 10 years. Tell us about that and what that looks like, and how you've cultivated this persona of self-love that you're able to then overflow and give out to the world.
Yeah, but first thing first is, I have to check my ego. The ego is the first thing that I had to check, and I did not understand about the ego. And I thought that I have to destroy it, but you can't destroy your ego.
Nah, it's what walks you through this life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it helped me to grow where I'm at now, and becoming who I am as a businessman, as a man.
Right.
So that when I was in that moment, it was the vulnerability that I did not understand. Why can a male be vulnerable? A lot of us as a male, we don't want to be judged. It's we're not tough. You know what I'm saying? So, but for me, since I'm always been surrounded by feminine, so I'm just freely I'm okay talking about it. I'm talking about my trauma, what I've been through, and just releasing all this, emotions, and I'm okay with it. And I think that's the first thing that I did, the ego, the being vulnerable, and just going even deeper within myself. Those are the key that, what got me where I am, right?
Yeah.
And then as a business growing as well, I'm growing with the business as well, So those are the key. Is the first thing was the ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so first thing, the ego, what it sounds like, because you said, there's so many spiritual ideals and groups shed the ego or get rid of the ego. And you're obviously that can't happen. So what you did was more rather befriend the ego, but more so I guess, align, recalibrate, and befriend the dark side of the ego.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. So the moment when, my relationship didn't happen, getting married.
Right.
So it was so hurt that to the point that I crumbled, and I cried, and I, trying to look for the answer and everything. And the ego, the other version of me, it popped up. The moment I'm down and like I'm just crumbled, it just popped up.
Yeah.
And looked at myself, and I saw this motherfucker looking at me. It's like this motherfucker's like, oh, was that hurt? And the fucked up part, it was like, I look up, and as if like that person was looking at me, and I was like, fuck, I start crying, and I was like, get up, little bitch. I was like, oh shit. And that's when I started cracking up, because like now I understand, you know what I'm saying? It's like, we need the ego.
Yeah.
And I'm okay. I'm like, all right, fuck it, man. You called me fucking you little bitch. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and it's true. Because I know that even that tiny, tiny bit of the unworthiness was still in me. And I put that. Yeah. And so that I started to listen to my intuition more now. And because whatever the first thing I felt is always come true. So I never knew about the intuition until I did the whole meditation. I did, working, on my gut, you know what I'm saying? So there's another, like during the, when I start the business, I become vegan. For almost 5 years. And it wasn't planned at all. It was the weirdest thing. I start waking up at 2:00 in the morning. I felt like somebody was waking me up like 2:00 in the morning on the dot. Yeah. And I had to work by 7:00. So 2:00 in the morning, the first thing I've kind of like, when just a rush of energy comes to me, it was like, hey, go to Mexico. Hey, go to Indonesia. Hey, go to Philippines. Go to Japan. What kind of things that they do? What it's from ingredient, from culturally. So I started to making my own concoction in the kitchen. Yeah. Like 2:00 in the morning. So that's how I developed this business, right? And then I started the business because of charity. I just brew for charity.
What?
Yes.
Oh, it started with a cold brew, huh?
Yes.
That's right.
I started with a cold brew. Yeah. And that moment when it
started in service.
Yeah, it's all service. Sheesh. That's the beautiful thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like I gave 100%. I did that for 2 years. Just keep brewing coffee to help out, all the downtown LA homeless, also for the elderly in San Diego that they can't, pick up their own food, so they have to have a service for people. And then also for less fortunate kids that they want to go to school but they don't have money. So all the proceed was for them. And mind you, bro, I was selling that cold brew for a 12 ounce for $10. Yeah. And I told them and they sold out all the time. And people told me bro, you should do your own business. I don't know anything about business. I'm always art. Right. So that alone, it developed, for me was that oh yeah, shit, I can do this. Yeah. Fuck it, you know what I'm saying? So I just saved up $5,000. I started $5,000 and just get commercial kitchen in Pasadena, get all the licenses, and then I start doing the side hustle, which is the cold brews. I do that on the side, so start delivering door to door. Yeah, and that's how it is. And then I start developing for myself, talking. I used to be, I hate the way I talk, the way I am. So now the more I just freely speak up, just tell myself, bro, nobody's going to fucking help you. Nobody's going to come to you and fucking help you. You have to get up on yourself. Right. So I have that kind of mentality now. It's and that ego, it helped me. Right.
Well, yeah. So I love this. So essentially what you recognized is the victim mentality. Right? Yes. This whole waiting for a savior. Yes. Was not only futile, but it was also just not the reality. And it was it's almost like for some of us, and this is where I can relate with you. We have to get to that space where we have to have our like backs against the wall or literally be on the floor and be like, yeah, no one's going to do this for me.
No.
Like, no one's going to come and just be like, oh, hey, I heard you singing. I'm going to give you, you know, like I used to think some romanticized shit like that in my head where I'm like, yo, I'll do this dope ass track and someone will be like, you got it, kid. Here's like a mill and here's a record deal. Not happening. No. And it gets, and if it did, they'd be purposeful and there'd be a lesson there.
Yes.
Right. But either way, like there's a growth edge there for us. And in your specific circumstance, you were like, no one's going to save me.
No.
I'm going to take, so this egoic thing is there to not only help you move through this life, but also you recognize like, hey, I'm the one creating this.
Yeah. You're the creator of your life, right?
Yeah. And you ascended from that space of being that victim or of being the self-saboteur, right? Or any of these types of labels and came to the space where you're like, oh, I get it now. Yeah. I get how this game or this whole thing works. Like I dictate how I feel about myself. Right. I dictate what I do in this life. Right. And then that led you to here. Yeah.
Right.
Amazing.
That's how it is. And plus, you know, I purposely, this is what I did, my process. I started document myself.
Okay.
Just film myself and take a picture of myself.
Yeah.
Whether it was me doing OOTD, you know what I'm saying? Outfit of the day.
Yeah.
So it really helped me to be more confident about myself, right?
Yeah.
And it was started from fashion. I was like, you know what? I just love fashion and I start, you know, the way I dress, the way my swag and everything. Just it helped me to grow. So, but that was coming from the ego because the ego really got me. It's like, look, man, it's like, fuck it, man, let's do it. Like, you know, literally, I was talking to myself.
Yeah.
Like I literally just sit down and have a tea with myself and I start loving myself, going to movie with myself, going anywhere by myself.
Let's go.
I used to fucking hate that shit, bro.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't even fucking go out and eat by myself.
Let's talk about this because this is real shit right here. I'm a dancer. You already know this. Yeah. You've seen me get down. I just started going dancing. You know, I did the whole transformational festival scene, and I used to be a hippie and all this stuff, and I used to be a break dancer and all these things, right? I love house music. It was not until this year, like the first week of January, that like I would never ever think about going to a club by myself and going and dancing. Be like, oh, that's weird. What are people gonna think of me? All these things, all the stuff, right? And it's like, who's that voice? And how and is that like a limiting? Not only it is a limiting belief, but how is that limiting me for how I show up for the rest of the days of the week and the months and so forth? And like, what comes with that? And so when you say that, you, like even going to the movie theater or eating food or whatever, like what were the thoughts in your mind and how did you feel as you navigated into that space and what like opened up? Tell us about that.
That actually helped me so much, not just the confidence, but more like I found peace within myself. You know, so I don't have to fucking worry about anybody else. It's just me versus me. And the voice is a lot clearer. And just me listening to myself and, you know, with my deep thoughts and really it's like, you know, I found that peaceful moments just for myself, right?
That contentment. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel that, bro.
Yes.
Where you're like all of the ideals of society and societal norms, you recognize that once you don't play into them, they just don't exist in your world.
Yeah, they don't. it really don't.
They're so restricting.
Yeah.
They're so restricting, and all they do is cause us from being able to be our best selves. Because it's like, who's just like, why should you ever feel guilty eating food at a place alone or going to a movie and having a self date? Right. Like I'm taking myself on dates out to this dancing. I'm not looking to pick up girls. Yeah. I'm looking to dance my butt off as a heterosexual, you know, male, like short Asian dude, like whatever labels we want to put on it. Like there's so much freedom there.
Right.
And so you chose, but the thing is you intentionally, consciously, very discernibly chose freedom.
Yes.
You knew what you were doing. It's not like you stumbled upon freedom.
No.
You had to say, and tell me this. Let me see if this analogy makes sense to you, because I was just talking about it to a friend today. It's almost like going and jumping in a pool of cool water or cold water, right? Like, or like cliff jumping, it's like the fear of it is always much more crippling than the actual thing.
Yeah.
And then once you do it, you're like, oh, I'm starting to get warm now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But until we actually embark and like embrace the suck and go to that next space, like we don't realize that the most frightening thing was the fear itself. And and if we choose to be in that fear for long enough, it becomes completely paralyzing.
Very true. But what I also learned is fear.
Yeah.
Is actually, it just came from our own thoughts that it was coming from other people.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like, let's say you like, you go into the club and it's like, oh, that guy is a loser. So those actually just the voices that it was coming from. It was, you listen to others.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That was the fear.
You learn that.
Right.
You learn that voice.
That's
somewhere.
what happened to me in the business. Because like everybody was telling me, was like, how are you going to do this beverage business?
Right. Because they got those own self-doubts in their head.
You have no fucking idea what the fuck you're doing. I don't. Yeah. But in reality, nobody knows what the fuck they're doing.
Right.
Why not?
Yeah.
And in that, in that moment, I'm like, why not? And I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it.
Hey.
Fuck it. What's the worst thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fucking going back to graphic design again? Which I am. You know what I'm saying? Because I realize it's like, I don't judge myself whatever I'm going through. Now that I understand that, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
So all the blessings just keep coming in. Hey. And even though I'm in a place where, it was tough for me to get away from, but I had to sit with in each and every situation. And I started to thankful for my obstacles or the challenges. The same way
that's the goal right there, bro. Yeah.
My blessings.
Hey.
Because when is the last time you say thank you to your challenges? When is everybody?
Yeah.
You always say, thank you for blah, 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 blah. But you never say, man, I'm so grateful for this rejections.
All right. That's a mic drop right there.
Right.
That's it. Like tragedy begets opportunity.
That's it.
And we have the opportunity in those spaces where we're like, societal norms would say I should crumble right now. Or and the biggest thing about this, because this is one of my favorite topics, for one, every single like little decision we make dictates our trajectory of where our reality goes, right? And so if we come into, my favorite analogy is a coffee shop. Someone comes into a coffee shop and they're like putting their head down. They're like, oh, life sucks. I just, I just got my car stolen, right? Mm-hmm. Like I got my car stolen in December, right? But I wasn't like, oh, I got my car stolen. It's like, hey, this happened. But it's all good. Things are going to be good. Yeah. And just in choosing to show up that way, not only do you, not to say do it to impress people, but you end up affecting people differently because they actually end up admiring you and trusting you that you're not being weak in circumstances where it's normalcy to be weak. Right. They see you being strong. And not only that keeps you more attractive.
Absolutely.
In all aspects, not only in like romanticized, but like literally as attracting, whether that's opportunities in business, friendship, romantic, familial, all of the things, right? And it's all a conscious choice. Yeah. It's all a conscious choice. And you choosing to do that is exactly what makes you magnanimous, my boy. That's what I'm saying. I love it. I love that we got here. Yeah. Because that's gold. It's such gold just to understand that.
Being authentic to yourself, bro. That's actually helped me to get where I'm at, right? Just being authentic. So that's why I'm saying, like, I film myself and whatever it is, I don't care how it's gonna look. Yeah. I just keep like just film myself. Yeah. And I tell the world, I tell all my followers, Good Vibe Society, that's why they love me, because I'm being so authentic.
Raw and genuine.
When I'm down, I always be present. Yeah. Because you never know who you're going to attract, who you're going to help, bro. You know what I'm saying? Just show up.
I may say it. This guy's been doing it. He's been being a beacon for years. Like the track record for one, let's also come back to this graphic design thing, because this dude has made all the graphics for all of his products. He's made the recipes. He's been handling the logistics for business. He's been handling the expansion throughout this whole thing, and he's been doing social media stuff where he's making graphics for the social media, dancing in it, posting him shaking bottles around. He does give a fuck, and at the same time, he doesn't give an F about what people are thinking.
Yes.
Because he's just doing him, and he's doing it unapologetically, but not in a space of malice at all, in a space of benevolence, in a space of kindness, and in a space of inspiration. Right. And that's a hero.
And, you know, being real, like, I started to write down the goal for good vibes.
Yeah.
And before pandemic, I write it down where all the store that I want to be in.
Hey.
And the first thing I put was Erewhon. Second, Wholefoods, Sprouts. All the list goes on, right?
Yeah.
And I always have that in my board in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And I kept seeing every single time, like, oh, I'm going to be here, right?
Yeah.
Sure enough, the opportunity came. I got into Erewhon.
Yep.
This is right before pandemic. And then pandemic happens, right?
Yeah.
The moment I got into Erewhon, what was that? What did I tell myself? Now what? Because this whole time I'm like putting that into pedestal, like this is what I want to be, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But that moment,
yeah,
that's when I started to notice, like, I love the process. It's not the end goal.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. So the more you're loving the process, like I said, you gotta start be thankful for all your challenges.
Right.
And the blessing, the same energy.
And as someone who's been in that process, like, it's so easy to say, you know, like, be grateful in the process or enjoy the process. But like, in reality, if we're not in gratitude for the challenges, if we're not present for the challenges, like, are we present in our life? And we're not, right?
The key is the moment you woke up in the morning, that's the key. Being in that grateful state. Yeah. Whether you believe it or not, whether you think it's fucking such a cliche shit, but it's the truth. When you woke up,
tell it like it is, bro.
When you fucking woke up in the morning, that's it. So what I told myself is, like, I woke up in the morning, I'm grateful, I'm thank you to God, universe, whatever it is you want to call it, the source. Yep. I'm being grateful for waking me up, still have the roof over my head, I'm still eating. Everything else is extra. Yeah. You set it up how you want to be. And that's why I told people, have the day you deserve, it triggered them. Yeah. Every time I told them, have the day you deserve in the morning, some people will get triggered by it. It's like, what do you mean by that? Interesting. How do you want your day to become? Yeah. And it was the weirdest thing. And I started noticing, I was like, oh shit. When you tell that to the person that it's not aligned, they're going to get triggered. It's a blank canvas, and it's reflecting exactly what they're feeling inside. They're like, what the fuck you mean? Right. What I deserve? Because I deserve shit. It's like, I didn't say that. Yeah. You. Right? Yeah. So half the day you deserve, it truly is. It's like, you want to design how your day is going to be.
I 100% agree. And I love that what I do, the way my brain works, is breaking things down in an intellectual sense, in an evidential type of space where it's like, this is how this makes sense. Right. And what you're saying is like the way that it makes the most sense to the masses. Yes. And yet the way that I see it, and just to reiterate in my agreeance, is that what you're saying is that every individual is having the choice in every moment to choose their reality. Yes. And this whole entire thing, this whole entire podcast, the whole entire the book, everything I'm about is about us coming to that space of understanding that choice. Yes. Right? And the thing that I love about you, and the reason why we connected from like day one and have been close ever since, and just like seeing eye to eye, is that like we recognize that. And not like you said, you know, some people are going to be triggered. Some people are going to choose differently. There's always going to be an option, right, for individuals, always, they're going to be victims of circumstance. We all will.
Yes.
Right. But there's always the choice for us to choose how we perceive our reality in every moment and how we choose to respond to it.
Absolutely.
And that's going to start to shift everything and create our reality as we see fit. Right.
Yeah.
And one of the most simplest ways to say it is have the day you deserve.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the simplest thing. If we complicated things, you know what I'm saying? It's like, that's what I used to be that way too. And then the moment I'm just like simplify everything, just living this life and and that's what I learned just from the word that we speak to ourselves. You know what I'm saying? That really matters. And so I realized, like, I remember somebody was calling me, texting me, was like, bro, you're always busy. I was like, no, shit. And I was like, oh, damn. Why did I even say that? Why do you even say like, I'm busy, right? Everybody has time. It's just priorities, right?
Yeah.
So I started to just erase that word of busy to productive. So when you say busy, I was like, oh, sorry, I'm busy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, it hurts. Because that person that received that,
right,
you'd be like, oh shit. It's like, oh damn, he's busy. Oh cool.
Well, especially in the context of our society. Other societies might be like, oh, okay. But in our thing, it's like, oh, you don't have time for me.
Exactly.
Especially in a society that glamorizes and perpetuates victimhood.
Absolutely.
Where we're all the victim in this society, like, oh, they're too busy for me.
Exactly.
It's like, cut the shit out,
That's why
I get it.
That's why I started to use the word. I chose the word wisely now.
Yeah.
To say productive.
Yeah.
And it goes with relationship as well.
Yeah.
When you're in a relationship and you tell like, oh, sorry, I'm busy. It's like, oh, I'm busy right now.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, your girl will be like, the fuck, you ain't got no time for me?
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Why don't you just save like a minute your time? You can.
Yeah.
You actually can.
Yeah.
So you do have the choice.
100%. And you know what's interesting about this that comes up for me is that, like, as individuals get to this space of awareness and discernment as to how they choose to use their energy, use their language, use their wording, use their time, we get to this space where it's not that we start Xing out relationships because we're like, an individual from victimhood would see it as an more of like an hierarchical type of thing or authoritative type thing, like, oh, you think you're worse. It's like, no, it's not that I don't want to make time for you. It's that I will not allow for myself to take away energy towards the beautiful, productive things that I'm being called to build in order to navigate your lens of victimhood and or your emotional irregulation that you're not choosing to regulate on your own. Right?
Absolutely.
And that's where relationships, friendships, all these things end up faltering, because it's like, those are all our sovereign choice to regulate our emotions, to own our reality creation and be like, hey, you're creating this entire thing yourself. And we don't, especially when you start to become a high function individual who's like literally manufacturing their life as they see fit. Like you can't create time for that. Otherwise you self-sabotage your own.
So what I learned from that aspect is, never blame anyone. Everything what that person tells you is actually the reflection of themselves. So the moment I learned that, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's because including everything in the relationship, business, everything. So it just now is the business, and I actually embodied becoming good vibes. So anything that people told me, like, your products suck, blah, blah, it doesn't faze me anymore. Because
who said that?
Because that was just
who said this shit, bro?
What I'm saying is like, that's just a reflection of themselves.
100%.
Because before I would be like, it hurts.
Right.
The rejection, it really hurts. Like the rejection is protection, as you can,
right.
That's
that's
the truth.
100%.
And I could tell you right now, like from the moment the CFO of Wholefoods came to me at the pop-up, tell me, I was like, your product is really good. I'm going to introduce you to the buyer. Cool. I get the buyer. They're like, oh, sorry. So that moment it hurts me, but in actuality was a protection. If they fucking placed an order, I couldn't fulfill.
Right.
I don't have the fun for it. And it's not even like from a factory. I was doing it in the kitchen.
Right. Yeah.
So therefore, it was protection.
It was a blessing.
It's a blessing.
Yeah. So coming back around to tragedy begets opportunity, as well as like you being able to show up and not just like crumble, like you were able to see in real time very clearly, like, yo, I could have been in this space of just like spiraling. Yes. And I've been one to spiral throughout my whole life. And it's something that I still am learning to master. And maybe I will for my whole life. But that's always a choice to spiral. And you choosing not to spiral allows you to be more aware of the other opportunities that come. And you're like, man, especially if we do spiral, like you could have spiraled there. What an inefficient use of your energy. Like, right? Like you could have spiraled, you could have gotten sick from stressing out too much. Yeah. And it would have all been like, oh, wow. At the end of the day, I was being protected. Yes. And that comes into like understanding that either everything's a blessing to us or everything's a curse. Like if we don't see God in all, we won't see God at all, right? And so you choosing to be like, you know what? I'm not going to take this as a curse, allow for you to then be able to see the blessing in it ultimately, right? And it's just like so many times, I don't know if you've had this, but so many times I have unnecessarily stressed out, made myself sick, or just even just like, you know, not lived life to the fullest and shown up to the fullest and potentially completely avoided and not been in the space to take or be aware and even see opportunities that are in front of me because I've been in my own misery story. Right. And I commend you for not choosing to be in the misery story when society would dictate that you have every reason to. Right. Because that's what separates you from everyone else.
The process of Good Vibe Society and what I realized is all the blessings, it came in a time was the midst of chaos. In mine, my own version of myself. You know, whether, you know, my pops, you know, sick, whether it's the relationship, whether it's rejections, all those things just came in together. Like, for example, last year, right this time, I got sick. And my doctor told me, it was like, you cannot, I had a fatty liver, right? And I was so sick. And I had the opportunity to present to Sprouts, Wholefoods, and Target. And I told God, I was like, if something gonna happen to me, let it be. So I went for it. And I was so sick, I had to do the presentation. I showed up for myself. I did everything, whether in my own, like in my eyes, it wasn't perfect. But the moment I'm there, I had to do presentation. It gave me 50 minutes. Done. Yeah. It's because I show up to myself. And all those, whatever I'm going through, I don't feel it anymore. Yeah. And you know, start loving yourself even more. Like, so that process, it helped me to get through all this. Bro, how did, last year in March, I didn't have any stores. I might probably just like doing like here and there, but nothing at all. And then all of a sudden, here he goes.
Oh yeah, because
350 stores.
Because you pulled that Air One, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Because they want me to do all this.
I know.
It's expensive. You know, it's an expensive game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It is.
And I'm not in the place. And
it's a capital game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if you got the best product, you got to have the capital.
Yeah. So if you know, I tell people, it's like, you know, business, yes, it is fucking tough. I haven't received any paycheck for the last 5 years. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So if you really care about you having all this luxury, right? Like you have all the material shit, then are you really ready for business? Because it's gonna check you.
Well, I mean, all the startups, you know, they start off eating cup noodles and all this stuff. People don't see. They're like, oh, Elon Musk and all these people, they got all this money. It's like, you've never grinded as hard as they have. Nope. Ever. And you've never taken the risks that they have. They've taken their like vital years of their youth and like time and like they're like, you see how white Elon Musk was on that? Like that dude works. Like these dudes work, you know, and there's so much to be said. Like so many people try to look the part and some of them do the part. Yes. But rarely do we find individuals who make the sacrifices, and they're not even sacrifices, they're just dedication that are needed while also keeping their integrity and their honor intact. That's something that we don't know because a lot of these people in the limelight, you can't really know who they are. Yeah. But if you know real, you can feel real. Right. And then you don't have to know because you can feel it.
Damn, bro.
And well, I'm just saying, that's what I see. That's what I feel across the table. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I get it.
And you know, the beauty part during this process, before my pops was, you know, he fell down and he had to do brain surgery.
Yeah.
I was delivering my product in Long Beach.
Yeah.
So when I found out that he was rushed to the ER, so I drove right away, and I missed it, and he went to the ER. But prior to that day, I always took him to do deliveries, to pitch my product, and I kept telling, you know, tell my dad, it's like, Pops, just pray for me that, you know, I'll be at the store. He said, don't worry, son, your product is already everywhere.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry. And I did not believe it. I didn't believe whatsoever, because I know what I have to do. Like, it's hard.
Yeah.
Without capital.
Let's make it clear. You've bootstrapped this whole thing from the beginning.
Like, I started with $5,000.
Started with $5,000. Yeah.
I started $5,000.
Yep.
Right before pandemic.
Yeah.
And then pandemic happened. I had zero balance in my account. It was March 20th, 2020. I went to Trader Joe's to buy a salad for my pops, and I was short by $1. And I had cash, right? I had like one.
Yeah.
But I look at my card, and the clerk said, "Sir, you're short $1." And I was like, "What the fuck?" And I look at my bank account. I started laughing. Zero. I did not crumble.
Yeah.
I started laughing, and I was like, "Thank you, God." It's a reset.
You know, 100% yes to that. I feel like what you're describing right now, you know, if you hear about Tony Robbins' story, if you hear about all these individual stories who like ascend to greatness, like there's always this breaking point. It's almost like we have to have that reset, as you called it, right? Like, it's so interesting how so many individuals, like I've had to get to that point. I thought I got to that point, and then I kept getting broken, and I kept getting like what I thought was, you know, like, you know, done wrong or whatever. It's like, how much am I gonna, I already wrote a book on victimhood. How much am I gonna continue to believe I'm a victim of my story? How much am I gonna, when am I gonna realize that I'm creating this so that I can finally choose, like have my back so far into the wall, like basically be buried like 8 feet under and be like, okay, I've had enough. You know, like how stubborn can we be? And so many of us are so stubborn, we never get to those places. And what's interesting is, what I want to ask you about that is, in my belief, some of us are obviously chosen, destined, whatever we want to call it. But like life, you know, God, creator, spirit, universe, what have you, all the same, can steer us in these paths in life where certain events end up coming about that kind of like build that character and put us in these situations, right? And at the same time, at a certain level, maybe you can relate, at least for me, I can say that subconsciously or unconsciously, I put myself in specific scenarios that would end up creating character that would break me down, that would push me to these places so that I would then end up coming around to this. Right?
Yeah.
It's really interesting because at a certain level, there's an intelligence there.
Right.
And maybe we're not choosing it yet, but we know that that's the arc. And I feel like so many people are going through depression, are going through like being lost, or doing all these, you know, doing all sorts of things that aren't the main thing because they're not on that timeline, their natural timeline towards greatness. Like, I know that not everyone will choose it, but I think that even when we're not there yet, we're either choosing that timeline or not, and we can keep going side to side, but
it's going to end up where you need to be.
Right.
Because reality is you're destined for that. That's why, you know, not judging yourself and continue working on yourself and be ready whenever it is, like, you know, whether it's your own version of depression, your own version of raw bottom, right? Like rock bottom, right? You know, that's like, everybody has their own version of it, right? I have my own version of it. And really is that time, it was literally, that was like, oh shit, I could use that as my rock bottom. But what I saw was like, wait a minute. Okay, I don't have money in my bank account, but I still have the raw materials. That's the time I actually told myself, fuck it, I'm gonna fucking announce it to social media. I went to Instagram. Hey, I'm doing doorstep deliveries.
Yeah. You got crafty.
Right. You gotta be pivot, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the moment I actually just locked in.
Yeah.
Went to the kitchen, make all the product, fill myself like, hey, I'm gonna deliver blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Here, right?
Yeah.
From not having zero money, right?
Yeah.
I sold 20,000 bottles by myself. I'm talking about making, delivering, everything, bro.
You were driving to San Diego to deliver bottles, bro.
I did 80,000 miles in less than a year.
Jeez.
Just going from LA, San Diego, OC, Inland Empire, Ventura.
Jeez.
In 8 months until I put my product at this store in Hollywood called Hollywood Supermart. Shout out to her, bro. Like literally, a distributor saw me. Was like, "What is that?" I was like, "Oh, my drink. Let's go work." That's how it started.
It's wild. It's wild. I mean,
was it scary? Yes, it was scary. Like fear? Yes. No money, bro.
But how often do you like? There's so many. One of the things that I want to make poignant is that like your product since day one has been quality. I mean, it started off as like raw for one. Yeah. So we haven't even mentioned that. Like raw oat milks like that were delicious, that were monk fruit sweetened. This was before monk fruit was out. This was oat milk before people had a big deal about carrageenan and all the thing. Like it was super clean and it was tasty and it was amazing. You were doing that before everyone. And you were grinding and bootstrapping it. Like, I think that there's something to note that there are so many products. Once again, it's a capital game. There's so many crappy products and products that also cut corners.
Yeah.
You know, like I saw, you know, with my essential oil company, Lightbody, like I was, obviously it was not branded appropriately to be in Sprouts or something like that. But I saw companies that use inferior essential oils, inferior blends, inferior packaging.
Yeah.
And boom, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's been beautiful to witness you growing and just hammering away in humility and in the space of gratitude, like at the core, and being successful, because it's literally the pathway that people seldom choose.
Yeah.
You know, and even when they do operate from that as origin, because a lot of companies, they start off in an altruistic fashion. They start off in this place of benevolence, and then those dollar signs get pretty attractive and they just like fold.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's, you know, there will always be little pivot or shifts that have to be made so that it become more mass appropriate, right? Like pasteurization, HPP, absolutely, all these things. Yeah, yeah. And yet you've stayed at the core of it, like in integrity with everything.
It's because I found my purpose in life. You know, that really just helped me to get through all this obstacle, right?
Yeah.
Just spreading good vibes one bottle at a time.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, even right now, I'm in the middle of just, you know, in a place where like, oh shit, the blessing came. Before you call me, before even you tell me to do this podcast, I was grieving, bro. Like I was grieving real deep, and I did not understand. Well, I understand why, but what got into this point was I was asking, it's like, why is it keep happening to me and my family? Right? All the challenges.
Yeah.
And yes, bro, it's like, I'm not gonna lie, like even though I'm telling you all this formula, whatever that call it, formula to get through all the obstacles, but in reality, it keep testing me, bro.
It's still real.
It's real.
It's still real.
And it's testing me is because I still have all these traumas, trapped traumas, trapped emotion that I had to let out. So this last week, I start crying for no reason. I just blasting crying. And I start asking myself, what is the root of this? What is the root of this? And literally, I would start cleaning my room. And here you are. It was my journal from 2003. I read it again and again. And majority was about love, finding love, you know, not getting love. In reality, I haven't really check myself or forgive myself because I always put others first. I forgot about myself.
Yeah.
So the whole time, like I was reading it, I was like, holy shit, bro. It was like, I started crying and I kept telling myself, I was like, hey, I love you. Keep telling myself, I love you. It's like, everything's going to be okay. And thank you for getting me through all this, like through all these years.
Oh.
I'm going to be 44, bro. And that time.
You're looking damn good, bro.
But I'm saying, like, at that time, I was like, how did, the trauma, the trap emotion, it stays with you until you recognize you have to really dive into it and let go and forgive yourself, because this is when all the blessing is going to come to you and you're able to receive it in a way it was just meant for you. Otherwise, it's just, you're going to keep blocking it.
Right. And then it starts being distorted. Like you start to distort your reality, and then it becomes even deeper victimization and deeper denial of like, so this is like, I love that we're circling to all the stuff that is so juicy. Right. And talking about grief, right? What's interesting is that you're one of the most grateful people that I know. You're one of the people who resides in gratitude. And yet I've also known throughout our relationship, and because of the fact that you've been around the feminine so much, that you haven't been afraid to grieve. You aren't blocked in that space to access that like most men are. But it's not even a gender thing. Like most people in general, like they don't know how to process their grief appropriately and or honor it. And there's something really different there. And one of the things that I've learned throughout my time doing shadow work and men's work and personal development and being in the conscious space, psychedelics, all these things, is that grief is intrinsically connected to gratitude. And in order to access the deep well of gratitude, which then provides humility, you have to somewhat be operating and being able to feel grief.
Yes.
Because it's like, in order to have gratitude, things have to be finite, right? So
it's double G, bro.
Right? It's such a trip because there's so many people, and I talked about this on the first podcast, is that there's so many people who they start to feel grief. And like people don't normally go there until they get a taste of gratitude because they're barely touching into grief. And they only tap into grief when someone dies or something really bad has happened. And then all of a sudden they get vulnerable. They're like, oh man, I love you. People get connected. People come closer and they remember like, oh shit, I was caught up in this story when really all I want to do is love everyone, like the people that I love and connect. And for those who are really tapped in, like the gratitude is the grounding space. It literally like brings us to that space of mortality and death where we're just like, you can't worry about the stupid shit.
No.
And it makes you so much more grateful for like literally every single moment, every single breath. Like you said, like you wake up in the morning, you're just like, wow, everything starting now is just a blessing on top of blessings. You know what I mean? And it's so fascinating to tie that all together because it's something that still blows my mind to this day, that something that seems so, I guess in our society seems so like in a polarity is actually not. And I don't know how it is with Indonesian music, but like, for instance, in the Native American culture, like the songs aren't, hey,
it's not. Yeah.
It's got a morose tone because there's an intelligence there of being in that grief. And it's not like, oh, we're just all like sobbing all the time, but it's like, one of my good friends and teachers, Kale, told me, we're in lodge and me and him have some great talks. And he says that there's an opportunity for us to grieve those that we have not met yet. Not only our ancestors generations back, but the ones that we'll never get to meet, our great grandchildren. Like, is there an opportunity for grief there? For us not to be able to be there with them and to love them and to hug them and to be able to protect them. Like, if we feel that way about our children, what about our great grand? Like,
bro,
you know what I'm saying?
Bro.
And that's real.
No, it's real.
It can be real if we choose for it to be real. Otherwise, we never tap into it. But there's power there and there's clarity.
Absolutely.
And there's wisdom and being there allows for us to love even deeper.
Say it,
right? Bro.
Let me tell you.
Sheesh.
So what you just mentioned?
Yeah.
It happens to me.
I bet. I can feel that from you.
I was in the kitchen. That was the moment that I just couldn't get everything right. Pasteurization. store not picking up, pandemic, all these things just pile up, right?
Yeah.
I was in the middle of my kitchen. I kept screaming on top of my lung, but inside. And I was so mad. I called I'm talking about like my ancestors.
Yeah.
All the angels.
Yeah.
God, whoever it is. I was in that deep just anger. And I, especially for my ancestors, was like, if you don't come now and help me, get the fuck out. I don't want it. This is the last time I want to cut this generation. I don't want your traumas. I don't want it. I don't want any of this anymore. Everything just a pattern from, all your passed down. And it comes to me, I don't want it. Bro, the moment I did that, I felt like this rush of energy just hugged me. I was in the kitchen just bawling and crying, bro. It was like, oh shit. It was like, and I felt the presence of whether it's angel, whatever it is. It was just like rush of energy. I was just like so happy. And I felt like I was flying. And I get that. Now I understand. It was like, everybody, whether they got, trapped into the traumas and everything, you can call out.
Yeah.
You can call them out. And you don't want it anymore. Tell them you don't want it anymore. You don't want all this passed down traumas.
Yeah.
And really help me to overcome that. You know what I mean? And become of who I am, what I destined to be,
Yeah.
And it really is real, bro. It's like, it really is like energy is real, frequency is real. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's how I start learning about the whole vibration, the whole, whether it's from music, from meditation.
Yeah.
When you met a person, you right away was like, oh shit, like that energy, right?
Yeah.
So your energy actually introduced
100%.
first.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Always.
And then, of course, you don't want to judge the person, but I'm saying that energy's introduced to you first.
Yeah.
So that's how I learned about the process and everything. And, I trust my intuition even more. And the more, it's just one of those, whatever you want to call it, like gut feeling. It just, boom, right away. You know what I'm saying?
And the interesting thing is like, when you're talking about this, like you're from Indonesia, but you grew up in the West,
Yes.
And so you still have the connotations, the frameworks of the societal norms and opinions of the West. And one of those is that intuition is this foo-foo, or it's this thing. Instead of like, what if we were to reframe it to like intelligence?
Yeah.
But we don't associate it with that, right? And what's interesting is that we actually have science now to back up a lot of this stuff that used to be foo-foo, right? And what's interesting is, you and I were both agreeing that it's real. But the really interesting thing is, and this is like what I stand on my rock with, is that we create our reality as we see fit and through the lens of perception that we're choosing.
Facts.
And so it can be real or it cannot be. And so someone can be like, nope, I don't believe it's true. And it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
They're that strong. Just like I was saying, like someone can choose to be unworthy, right? And believe they're unworthy. I'm like, you're powerful enough and divine enough to create that reality and believe it and make it real. Even though if I say that you're ultimately powerful, you're still proving my point because you're still creating the reality where you're not. And what's interesting is that this type of ability to create that reality where nothing's magical, nothing, we're not able to affect everything. It's like, great. Does that serve you? Does it help you to achieve the things that you want to achieve? Does it help you to be happy? Does it help you to become great? No. Okay. So why do it? Oh, because you're doubtful? Because of, okay, well, if it would help, right? Why would you not do it? Oh, because I don't want to look stupid. So now we're going into insecurity. Now we're going into worth again, right? It's it's just like a
circle.
But it's so clear at the end of the day. It's like, hey, look, the way I see it, right? You have people who are unconsciously getting rich and successful and famous and whatever it is because they're just like insane sociopathic narcissists who are just like literally crazy. And they're just like, maybe they are. I don't know. I don't know enough of them to know. Or they're choosing to believe in themselves when no one else does, to the point where they're unstoppable.
Yeah. Facts, bro.
I mean,
It's
you
facts.
know,
Yeah.
And ultimately at the end of the day, whether or not they believe it at a core level, or like understand it from an evidential standpoint, where it's like, oh, there's science, like cymatics, like the sound, you know, and like frequency and all this stuff, whether or not they are that deep in it and have evidence for it and they like understand that, them believing that they create their reality and can do that either serves them or they can choose the opposite. But it's like, why would you choose the opposite? Unless you want to create the misery story, unless you want to not live up to your greatness. And why is that? Because you don't want to take the responsibility up, because you know what you're destined for, you know what you're deserving of. That's the interesting thing, bro.
And also, you know, to your point, a lot of people, they love the comfort zone, right?
Right.
They love the comfort zone. So,
Yeah.
And also, like, you know, your friend, your family, it matters as well, because, you know, who you surround, it matters.
Yeah.
Right? So, again, like, you know, I used to want like a lot of friends. I used to do all this, you know, partying and all this thing.
Yeah.
And now I realize it's like, you know, like you say, like, because everybody always say like, oh, the older you get, you know, you have less friends and blah, blah, blah. It's true. You know what I'm saying? It's like, because I rather chose to be at peace with myself rather than, you know, dwelling on the bullshit, right?
Yeah.
So now, like, when it comes down to business as well, yes, you got your business don't give a fuck about you. It's facts.
Yeah.
Because they don't have any feeling. Whether you're gonna be fucking, you know, you're crumbled, you're grieving.
Yeah.
Don't give a fuck about you. So this is when I realized like, you know, I work for Good Vibes. So I realized like, if Good Vibes is not going anywhere, it's because of me. So I own it.
Yeah. Well, it's like you're flying a kite.
That's what I'm saying.
You know?
And another one, it was perfect too, because somebody asked me, it's like, would you sell your business? And at first, before, I'll be like, fuck, man, this is my baby.
And now you like exit strategy.
And then, exactly, because now I realize like,
That's kind of how it works.
baby. It's like, that's not my baby.
Yeah.
You know?
That's
So I
like
realized-
your college, you know, or like, you know, you've already, this is a grown child,
Yeah.
or a grown adult.
So I realized it's like, you know what? We all have a choice. You know, we all have choice, like whether you want how your day is going to be. Again, it's going back to like have the day you deserve, right?
Yeah.
So again, like checking all that, you know, it helped me to grow. Even throughout now, I still, you know, checking my ego.
Yeah.
You know, make sure that, you know, how I react, you know, and be okay, you know, be okay with things that is not, you know, going for you, and I'm okay with it, and be okay with everything. It's just treat everything in the same energy. You know, it's like, that's again, like that's what I learned from all this time, you know, having the business, growing with the business, being mindful also, you know, what you put out, because you know, you're responsible for your brand. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it that you want? Like,
Right.
for me to attract to, it's very, I don't even know if there's other brand that it literally started from zero.
Yeah.
Like,
And
from
they're
scratch.
mindful.
Yes, very mindful.
Yeah.
And also the fact that I attract all these blessings. I'm talking about, how did I get into Sprout first? Right?
Yeah.
It's because the Indonesian government saw me on Instagram.
Wow.
I'm Indonesian. I just
They were
do
like,
my
that's
own
our
thing.
dude.
No, I'm saying like they're like, oh shit, he's Indonesian. It's like, so they tap into it. They ask me, it's like, hey, do you want to come with me for the expo?
Hey.
Bro, I didn't have any money to do the expo. It's like 30 grand.
Well,
You know, if you want to have your own booth, it's like 10 grand plus everything else is gonna come to like 20 grand.
Right.
I didn't have that. So again, Good Vibes started basically from $5,000.
Yeah.
That's my own pocket.
Wait, so let's just take a step back there. You choosing not to be not only like a victim, but to shrink in the space of all of these choices of insecurity, of feeling like you don't want to put yourself out there, that it's not perfect, all these things. You choosing to be like, you know what? I'm going to choose to be free. You start making content
Yes.
Not only for yourself, but to like literally go against the grain of all these negative voices in your head. You choosing that in every day and every moment that you're posting all this amazing content, and you keep hammering away at it. The Indonesian government sees you and they're like, yo, this dude is rising above adversity in so many ways and is vivacious and like literally just like exuding more than confidence. Like, yo, this is a guy who's beyond driven. You know, he's set. And they go and they say, come and do this thing. Go to this expo that's going to cost like 30 G's. We're going to cover the expenses, and that's how you get into Sprouts.
Yes.
So there is a direct correlation between you choosing to be magnanimous, you choosing to like be this epic character, to be the hero of your own story, not know exactly where it's going to go.
No.
And in doing so, having that blessing come about, which leads to another blessing, which leads to where we're at now.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
Mic drop. I mean, you know, like,
yeah.
And that wasn't just like an instant thing.
No, absolutely
It wasn't.
not. Because the first time, I was just all over the place.
Yeah.
When they asked me to join, I didn't know what I'm doing. I was at the expo.
Yeah.
But then how am I going to attract the buyer?
Yeah.
Right? The first year, I was everywhere. I was just like looking at badges like, oh shit, where's the buyers? Like trying to like connect with them, bro.
Oh.
Second
You
year,
were seeking.
I was like, because I put the resistance.
Right.
Instead of me just like, okay, cool.
Instead of you attracting, you were seeking.
I was seeking.
Yeah.
And seeking in a way where like, oh, I need to get
right.
it. And I had that ambition,
business.
right?
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
Yeah.
The second year, different story.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to go around it and going to see how can I meet with the buyer. And for whatever reason, my intuition, I had these voices.
Yeah.
LinkedIn. Fuck is LinkedIn? I haven't gone into LinkedIn for years.
Yeah.
Fucking sign up. The first thing that pop up, Wholefoods, Sprouts. They're announcing if you want to meet the buyer, you got to present. You do a pitch.
This is in Indonesia?
This is in here. This is the expo is in Anaheim.
Oh, so Indonesia paid for you to do the expo here.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So
Gotcha.
I went to LinkedIn, did my presentation.
Yeah.
And mind you,
Yeah.
it's not that you're gonna get it.
Of course.
Because you're gonna go against like all these, I don't know how many thousands of brands, right?
Right.
I got chosen. And not only did I just get like one, but I got three. I had to present it to Wholefoods, Sprouts, and Target.
Wow.
That's the time I was sick.
Right. Like you were mentioning.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I got that because of LinkedIn. I was being like, I trust my intuition. And what come out of it was LinkedIn, which I never used LinkedIn, bro.
Yeah.
And it really was like, and if you
Your
think
intelligence.
that intelligence,
Your intelligence was showing.
Yeah. So I did the presentation, did everything, and yet I didn't have money. How am I gonna back it up into this?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I asked my angel investors. Some come through, cool.
Yeah.
And then a co-packer came to me. He's like, I can help you.
Right.
I had 3 months to produce, to make it organic, certification, be at the shelf.
Which can take like a year.
Usually it takes about 8 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
It took me 3 months. So what literally was like, if you really put your mind into like what you want to do,
you
get it.
Yeah.
I did that.
Yeah. When you believe in yourself,
I believe.
like, and you
Forget about believe, bro.
Yeah.
It's faith.
Right.
I have faith.
Yep. And no one could tell you otherwise.
No.
You weren't listening to other people's stories.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Fuck the naysayers. You know what I'm saying?
And you know what's interesting is that like the funny thing about the naysayers, the funny thing about the pressure, right, is that like, you know, the pressure creates the diamond. Like we have so much metaphor.
Actually, you know what?
Everywhere.
I'm thankful for them.
Exactly.
I'm actually thankful. Yes.
And also like fuck them and thankful. You can say fuck you and love them and be grateful at the same time.
Absolutely.
But it's so interesting how so much of humanity and a lot of it, you know, like when I say all these things, like you and I both share compassion for humanity as a whole, for human consciousness as a whole, because like we're all attached to it. It's not like a singular thing that I just have a human consciousness and you just have human consciousness. Like we're attached to this field. We're attached to this like this global evolving human consciousness, right? And so much of it is entrenched in this thing where like, oh, this is hard. Oh, that means I should stop. And it's like, what? You know, like and we see that being proliferated and distorted throughout society, where people are doing the easy things to make a lot of money and being like, oh, this is empowering. And it's like, yes, in our past, there might have been things that were out of alignment, right?
Yes.
But now we've gone so far to the polarity where it's like, we're losing our morals, ethics, values, and everything. And we're doing the things that aren't difficult and acting like they're valuable.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yes.
It's wild. And so there's compassion there, and, you know, for the people who are in it, because they're serving a role at some level, because it's a reflection of where we've come from, where we are now, and then where we can go, which is more of an aligned and, you know, more integral state of being. Right. But what's interesting is what you're representing, and you're just talking about the haters. Like, it's almost like without the haters or without the pressure there, without that, it doesn't. Be. Yeah, it's like a specific gem. Yeah. Like every single type of crystal is like very unique in its composition and its everything and its lumen, all these things. And yeah, it's a fascinating thing, because what's interesting is, you talked about Ganesh, in the Elephant's Your Brand, in the Vedas, they talk about how there's in the Vedas, they talk about yugas, right? Like the different yugas. Like now we're supposedly going into or going out of Kali Yuga, which is the time of like chaos, destruction, and confusion. Yeah. And at there's when there's the most people there on Earth, and it's just chaos, destruction, and confusion, and it's bad, people die, and all these things, blah blah blah. Right? It's like the dark ages of like human consciousness and the timelines that are cyclical. But then you go to the ones that are like super nirvana-like. Mm-hmm. There's like, I think there's 10 or 100 times less people on the earth, or even more, maybe 1,000. And it's just super tranquil and peaceful. And it's like, oh, okay, that sounds cool. But is that interesting? I mean, is that, like, how can we find gratitude to be in this space where there is the naysayers and the haters and all this stuff, and we're able to have this crescendo and this rise that's differentiating, that creates this like unique color, Right. Like we only have so many colors we can see visibly, but like you're a unique color in this whole tapestry of just like regular, rainbow colors. Like you're creating this unique color and glow to you by you choosing to separate yourself from this throughout that pressure and everything. And I find that it's beautiful, and there's gratitude there, and also, like we're humans, we're dudes from LA. Like, come on, this is what's gonna happen. This is gonna happen.
But again, like I'm glad that we're in this space where we're able to talk about my story, your story. What I'm saying? It's like we need to do more of this, like, because as a male, and I need to be okay in a space where being vulnerable and talking about my past, talking about my process, loving the process, and a lot of times people also in a place where they it's like, oh, I came from this kind of family, blah blah blah, but you have a choice to be your own. Like everybody's unique on their own. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what it is, like, because the moment I stop, first of all, the whole materialistic. This is another thing that the key, it just happened recently as well, is detachment.
Tell me about that. What do you mean by that?
So I went back to Indonesia, and the first thing I did, I meditated, and it was at my parents' retirement home. I sat down, being grateful, and all of a sudden, I wanted to be detached from everything, from my business, from my family, from my mom, my pops, from all the materials, all my friends. So I literally detach everything. I just take everything away, just me and God.
Yeah. Took the armor off.
Everything.
Yeah.
It's because attachment, this is what human now, the attachment is what it costs us to feel all the blessing, because we are attached to certain thing. We attached to material. We attached to to clothes, everything. We attached to family, relationship.
Yeah.
We put so much attachment to ourselves,
Yeah.
and you forgot. You know, you the moment you detach everything, meaning that I'm okay with whatever is going my way, whether it's going to be blessing or whether it's going to be obstacle. I'm okay with it. I'm at peace with everything. So
Yeah.
that moment after I detach everything,
Yeah.
that feel just, I cried, of course. Like, but of course, of course, I cried. And that
That's what's up.
moment, because
Yeah.
it was so tough, like just detaching from my family, like literally was like,
Yeah.
it's me and God. That's it.
Yeah.
In the end, just what are you gonna do? You're not gonna bring anything. It's the attachment.
You know?
And the fucked up part is like what you leave behind to all the people that you love is actually your traumas, all the trap traumas.
Yeah.
You know, all your emotion is still attached to them.
Yeah.
So I felt like, you know what? It's not fair for them to receive this. When I'm gone, I want them to receive all the goods that I did. Like, you know what I'm
legacy.
saying? The legacy.
Yep.
So that was literally the moment I did the whole detachment. So now, whatever happens, I'm okay with it. I'm at peace.
Yeah.
At peace, yeah, with myself. And being at peace is something that, you know, a lot of us, we can't be in that stage, you know, because we caught up with all the, whether it's the bills, whether it's like, you know, you got to pay this and you know, jobs, everything. It's just the dramas and that's really what got me into the detachment because I had enough. Like, I want to be better. You know, and I don't want people to be suffer because of my actions and you know, all the things. So, you know, in detail with, you know, with the traumas, the attachment, those are the things that you don't see. Right. You don't see, but the actuality is like you plant it to that person. You know what I'm saying?
Unless you deal with it. Yeah, like it's stored in our genetics, epigenetics, right? Like, to be honest, my opinion on a lot of hereditary diseases is that it's just undealt with trauma, right?
Absolutely.
You know, it's like, it's hereditary for a reason. And dis-ease, not being at ease, you know, people back in the day understood this stuff. But, you know, what's interesting that comes up for me when you say this about detachment, and I think this is a really poignant point that you brought up, because there's being someone who came from the conscious community and like the meditation space, yoga teacher, like the holistic space and as a whole, and went way deep into it, completely was that, and then completely went away from it and is now finding integration and balance, is because of the fact that the reason why I have so much resistance to embrace it fully like it did before was because of the individuals who were aiming towards choosing to fully detach as that being the ultimate goal and that being the narrative of like the ultimate status is to literally have no ego and no attachments. Like, wrong, right? Because you'll never be that. And if that is the ego, right? You know what I mean? And if that's your purpose, then like, great. That's a very selfish life. And all it does is provide a avenue for other people to do the same. And in that, there's almost this insidious nature to it, because it actually like takes a person and denies them of their creatorhood by them choosing to literally become into nothingness, which is what we are and we are not at the same time. We're all of it, right? And so with that being said, you choosing to talk about detachment in this way is really interesting, because what comes up for me is you taking off the armor and all this. It's almost like, I don't know the correct metaphor, but it's like holding on to something so tightly because you're so afraid of letting it go and losing it. And you gripping it tighter doesn't make it not go away.
Yes.
If anything, it might destroy it quicker.
Absolutely.
Right? It's like, or let's say it's like a little leaf and you're like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. I don't want it to go away. And then the wind's coming. You're like, oh shit, I got to grab it tighter. And then you destroy it.
Yeah.
Right? And in the same vein, it's like, for one, having faith, like you said, like, can we take off the armor and be like, hey, whether we want to trust that we're going to be protected in that moment to breathe and do our meditative practice, or we're going to just to let go of it all for a minute so that we can commune, you know, with God, with spirit, so that we can like detach ourselves so that we don't get too caught up in it. And yet we can then put it back on and be like, okay, I'm back in the narrative now. I'm back in the reality of this life, but I'm not letting it entrench me and let my mind or my narratives distort it to the point where I forget who I truly am.
Yes.
And in that practice, you're also practicing faith, which is interesting, which I love because that's a reframe on what I was just saying, which is that whole thing of like, oh, this is where we need to be. It's just nothingness. It's like, no, there's a balance there. Right. It's not just, oh, I'm just the human and I'm just this story. It's the, hey, I'm, well, courageous and brave enough, but I also have enough understanding, belief, and knowingness and trust in myself and trust in God and trust in my ancestors and trust in all these things that I can take a moment to detach.
Yes.
I can take a moment to let it all down and know that I can pick it back up. And I don't have to worry that like, oh, it's going to slip or anything like that. Because is that really faith? Is that really gratitude? Is that really us trusting? And so that's medicine for me, bro. So thank you, because it's important. And I'm important. Yeah, I can learn from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Detachment is a very important, man. It's like really is. It's like there's a time, doesn't matter what you're going through, whether you're gonna be in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Life is gonna test you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is like right now is so many people being more conscious about what's going on in the world, and that's why I have the business Good Vibes Society, is because I truly believe, I truly want to have a society where we can just help each other out. You know what? Whether it's from exchange energy, whether it's like this right here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like this is in a place like I truly believe because of how we met. It's from my beverage company, and then met you. So all this thing, everything is just meant to be this way. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm just grateful for where we're at, and even though I don't see you as often, but I always felt like you always present. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just
it's family.
It's family. You know what I'm saying? It's just like,
and we're also taking care of family too, which is an interesting thing.
That's another topic.
That's a whole other topic. But
another topic, and the whole even the whole love life story. Those are something that is it could be in the mix, but right now it's like the business where I am right now, because of my business, it actually helped me to become good vibes.
Yeah. And with that, I'll say this too, because I feel like we're parallel in this as well. Like we're parallel with family. We're parallel with having like high integrity and not being able to like back away from that, because it would just literally kill us. Yeah. And there's a special type of person with that. But I think what's also interesting is that we recognize, like whether it was you, letting go of your marriage, or whether it was me letting go of my 10-year relationship, there's like, we need to build the thing that is the wellspring of what we represent. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, it's cultivating our attraction and attractiveness to the caliber that actually matches what we're desiring, right? Because like a dude like you and I are not going to get a lot of play on dating apps. Let's be real. You know what I mean?
I'm not even on one.
Good. Don't do it, because it sucks. But in reality, like, where is there a dating app that exists? Is there a meetup that exists for the caliber of individual who takes the risk, who is this mindful and all? Like, no. And you also have a lot on your plate, and there's so much to admire, and there's so much to be grateful for, and you're still in the midst of it, just as I am. And through the building and the cultivation of it, you're not only growing, building your own attraction as like being the individual that you're literally like metamorphosizing into, and in the crescendoing, and there will be other crescendos in life as well, but in the like the rise of this, you end up being able to literally express and represent and magnetize and attract, like, oh, that individual resonates with me, and I would have not even known he existed if not for him being the magnanimous individual who's then brought this forth. It's so interesting. Like when we talk about love, like I've come to the understanding that, like, for one, I am cultivating my attraction in all these ways. Mm-hmm. And two, I can't expect to, if you want normalcy, it's easy to get normalcy. Mm-hmm. If you want something extraordinary, it's going to come from extraordinary means, right?
Absolutely.
And if we're doing something extraordinary, that is like, and that's the representation. And also as we become more discernible with like our energy, what we allow into our lives, boundaries,
Yes,
right? Like
boundaries.
what you're talking about with like friends and like how you show up for your family, like all of this and time, being busy and all these things, it's boundaries and it's standards for how we choose to operate in our life. And all of that coming back into like the romantic relationships or love and all these things. It's like by having those boundaries, we create and by cultivating what we're doing, we're literally creating like a filtering mechanism and also becoming the magnet for the types of individual or type or specific individual that makes sense, that is there. And along with you having faith with being able to detach, with you having faith with your business and everything, there's also the faith that it will all happen in the perfect time.
Absolutely. That's why, just be authentic. Just you want to work on yourself. It's like you attract, you don't chase, right? So that's the bottom line. And at the moment you kept doing that, whether it's going to help in a spiritual world, whether it's going to be business, everything's going to tie down together, whether you like it or not. Business and I embodied good vibes. So the moment, but this is the crazy part. The name is Good Vibe Society. Yeah. So are you saying that you're gonna be good vibe all the time? No. It's bad vibes too. You know what I'm saying? I have to embrace it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because it's reality. I'm allowing myself a lot of time. Also, I'm in that funk or I'm in that deep thoughts of just bad, bro. But I embrace it. I embrace everything. It's just being, just being present with myself, and really is. It's like good or bad. It's the same thing. Yeah. But this is the what I was telling you is like I embody that is because every time I'm in that bad vibes moment. Yeah. I call it moments, not all the time, right? Right. Just the moments, right?
Hey, I love that. Yep.
I would check myself. It's like, hey, you're good vibes. So act like it.
Yeah, that responsibility, right?
Right away.
Yeah. And it's a decision.
Yeah, it's a decision. But it was really quick for me to make that decision. Before, I'd be like, I was like, no. But now it's like, done.
What's interesting is like, you've refined that. You've come to the place where it's not always immediately that easy or ever. And the thing that this is why I want to make animations for this, because I feel amazing, like, right? I feel like people would understand it better, but like in this invisible space within yourself, you are literally choosing against the operating system that potentially you were grown up with or cultivated throughout your life from everything that you saw as a child, all the freaking shows we watched, all the normalcy of how people operate and how they choose their decision-making. You're having to say, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm doing this. Quick. And you're doing it like in milliseconds, like instantly. Yeah. Right. Because you're having a boundary on what you allow into your own like mental space. And also you're recognizing that it doesn't serve you to do that.
Nope. It started with that little bitch, calling myself a little bitch. Right? It is true. Like, the moment I call myself, "You fucking get up, little bitch." Yeah. I start cracking. I was like, oh shit, that was me. Like, I was like, oh shit, I am being a little bitch right now. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I'm okay with it. Like, I call myself that because I just want like that instant.
Right.
It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I have to go on that grief moment.
Yeah.
I checked myself, and it was funny, bro, because like I realized that moment when I checked myself being like, get up, little bitch, that one is like, okay, I acknowledge it.
Yeah.
A little bit. But now I'm actually going deeper with it even more when I'm in that place, right?
Right.
I'm okay. I'm just going to have coffee, tea with myself and like just with my deep thoughts. And it's like, okay, what's going on? Like, so I lay it down. Like I lay everything down and this is going to happen. Yeah. So the more you do that, it's actually that constant, that click,
right?
It takes that much of a process to practice. It's a practice.
It's just like being flexible or anything else. Like you're literally practicing it to the point. And it's something so interesting because for most people, it's so intangible, right? Because it's not like,
in the physical necessarily, right? But it's all so real. And it actually, what's the fascinating thing about it, once again, tying it back to like our lens of perception, the choice to either just go on the subconscious programming of what feels right and what we know is normalcy, which is oftentimes destructive, but our body will get a dopamine surge and be like, oh, this is the right way to act. This is the right way to respond. This is the right way to think, is actually super destructive. And to choose otherwise, like you're doing, is actually you potentially spiking cortisol and adrenaline, making yourself feel stressed out. But you are able to know, like at a higher sense, that this is good for you. And it's you doing that constantly, rerouting, rewiring, reprogramming the whole thing. And you're doing it intentionally. Like you're like, this is good for me. This is good for me. And it's something that so many people don't understand and don't recognize that there's so much merit and value in. And not only that, like you said about passing down trapped traumas and all this like genetic stuff. Yeah. That's how you get rid of, that's how you like reprogram that thing. Like, and once again, talking about like being grateful and stuff, like when we think about what we're, I talked about this in the last one because I had to grow out of this, right? I used to be like the revolutionary. Like you find out all these conspiracy theories. Like all these conspiracy theories are true. You're like, oh shit, the government's shady, all these things, blah, blah, blah. And then there's this revolutionary archetype. And there's also the archetype of the altruist who's like, I only want to do good. I'm nothing but light and blah, blah, blah. Both are misaligned because at the end of the day, it's the individual who chooses to not blame the others. It's the individual who chooses to be like, hey, even though this society screwed up, even though these, I'm dealing with this psyche that's just overwhelmed with, giving me dopamine to do the wrong things, like what a challenge. Yeah. And when did we start associating challenge with negativity? And how is that not just the scapegoat not to be great? Right? Like, is greatness just supposed to be like, oh, we're all great? Like, even though we're all destined for greatness, if we all just popped out of the womb and everyone's just like, I am great, I did this, I did that, it would be lame. That'd be so lame, dude. And it's like, and with that all being said, it's like, oh, wow, the way for us to get there and to like, to really have something to triumph over is dope. It's dope, And so I just got to say that because what you're saying, like, I totally get it. And, some people could, for one, they first have to understand how it operates. And then two, like recognize like the challenge in it. It's the opportunity. That's the blessing. It's not the, it's hard. It's like, whatever you're doing there, it's just afraid of the true reality of how great you are and creating this archetype that's like, oh, it's too hard. It's too this because you're afraid. And that's okay. And I love you that you're afraid. But like, that's not odd. And that's the thing that I said in the last one too. And this goes back into boundaries and you choosing not to be with certain people and all these things. Is like, you don't, and this, which is why you say like, have the day disorder. You don't need to validate anyone else's feelings, and nor do you have to reflect them. Like if they're having like this thing where they're that, you can be like, yeah, you are still going to choose to be you. Because for one, in doing that, you're medicine for them. Because they're like, wait, this guy isn't like being like one of those people where I can be a vampire and just take their energy and get pity from them, right? Because that's what people do. They do, bro. They do. And not only that, bro, it's both of us are very highly empathetic person, right? Yeah. So we had to learn in a way all the, like you said, the boundaries and everything. Yeah. So I personally, for myself, the whole being empathetic, it was, man, like it's hard for me at first, like, to let go of certain people or it's okay to not help them. It's not your job. It's not your fucking job. Preach, bro. Preach. It's not your job to fucking take everyone in your fucking, let's say you're in a car, like, what I'm saying? It's like, it's not your job. They need to learn as well. Yeah. So I had to learn that like recently with my business. Mm-hmm. So I realized it's like, yes, I still have empathy, but 100%, I'm okay. I'm okay letting them go. I'm okay. Yeah. And I'm okay with them, you have to deal with themselves. Because if not, then just like you were saying, they're going to keep lynching hard to you when grab your energy free.
And again, are you doing them a disservice?
No.
Right? I'm a tag team you on this, right? So not only is it not our duty and responsibility, but like this comes back into the altruist and the revolutionary, right? Of being the bleeding heart and of wanting to save everyone, right? It's like we talk about consent for sex, consent to drink alcohol, to consent.
Yeah.
What about consent to suffer?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Damn.
did we ever get consent to save them from their own suffering, their own self-imposed suffering? Because there's a lesson there.
Yeah.
Like some of the best stories of all time, like we talked about, like triumphing over greatness or over tragedy to get great. Like, what if someone just picked up Tony Robbins and was like, here, I'm going to make you, I'm going to give you, you're really big. We're going to make you a real estate guy, or what did, I don't know who he still probably would have become. I don't know. Point is that like saving someone from their own tragedy or their own self-imposed misery, or that potentially that rock bottom could potentially be, for one, it's non-consensual. Two, it can actually deviate them from their path towards greatness.
Facts.
And that's wild because, and this is why I talk about like the altruist and the revolutionary going into the space of saviorhood and thinking that that's like the final tier. And there's so many people in politics in today that are in the space of like, oh, we need to save everyone. Oh, it's unjust for these people, or these people have suffered, or these people have suffered. It's like, yes, and right? Like the people of Indonesia have suffered.
Yeah.
The people of Korea have suffered. The people everywhere. There's been enslavement pretty much all around the world, right? There has been suffering and destruction and rape and pillaging. Like eye for an eye, the world is dead, like blind. You know what I mean? And that doesn't mean that we negate the suffering. That doesn't mean that we like dismiss it. But to keep perpetuating narratives that keep the lens of victimhood alive and create this story of, oh, we need to save these people because they're weak or anything like that. I find that to be blasphemy.
Yeah.
Right? Give me some, bro. Come on, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because like, I call it divine castration, and that's a fucked up term. But like, you want to talk about taking away people's divinity. The way you do that is create a narrative that says that they're less powerful than they are, to create their reality and to rise above adversity no matter what it is. That doesn't mean that, like you said, being empathetic. But it's like, if you're going to try to come at me and be like, hey, bro, don't you agree that I'm not powerful enough to do this and I'm at a disadvantage, and because of that, I can't do this? I'd be like, no. I'd say that if anything, that's the correct recipe for you to triumph above adversity. And that's not me saying that you don't love them. No, or that things in the past or anything that didn't really happen. But that's available.
Yeah.
Right. And anything, anyone, any organization, any person or anyone who's trying to like perpetuate that, you want to talk about the devil world. That's that is. And the devil serves a point because it creates that pressure, it creates that opposition, it creates that ability to have this beautiful triumph. It's the yin and the yang, right? Yes. It creates that beautiful dance, the opportunity to have a crescendo, which would otherwise just be neutrality, which is not that fun. Nope. But yeah, I love that you get that and we're on the same page about that, because it's a touchy subject, and that's why I don't get too specific. But that's one of the things that hurts me the most, because I recognize we can't save everyone. I've been there. I've been the altruist and revolutionary where like, I gotta save people. You know me. You heard me sing. Like, you know what I'm saying? And after integrating, after learning, it's like, that's not only is that a futile endeavor, like that you just can't say that, right? Not only is that futile, but it's actually like crossing the line. Yeah, because it's without consent. It's without consent, and it denies the individual of to grow and to honor their choice. Yes. Because just like you are making that choice, they're making that choice, even if it's subconscious or unconscious, where they're like doing the dumb things or whatever. It's like the only thing that we can do that is in integrity is to lovingly remind them that they are making a choice. And that's my mission. That's my mission with Magnanimous Collective, with my book, with speaking, with being able to like put this out there. But at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of people choosing victimhood. There's going to be a lot of people doing stupid shit, choosing to do stupid shit, even if they recognize they're choosing. But
My goal is just make it mainstream consensus. They're like, we're choosing, especially now, you have this platform, so people can recognize, the whatever they want to do in life. Heck, we all have a choice, and it's a power. It's just power, bro.
Yeah.
And we got everything easy right now, bro. Like, everybody is one Google away to do whatever the fuck they want.
Let's be real. So, right man right here comes from Indonesia, doesn't speak English, and has taken risks and has been grinding so hard. And he's telling you right now, you want to talk about POC, you want to talk about someone who this, that, or the third. This brother has made strides, and not only has he let's be real, right? Because we were talking about this even before we started. We know that there are ways to make money that are not in integrity. Sure. It's not about the making money, right? And you want to talk about legacy. It's not about the amount of money you make, and it's not about it's not about the amount of money you make. It's about how you make the money. It's about the legacy you leave, right? It's about the work that you do in this lifetime. Absolutely right. And what you choose to pass down, which is your legacy, which is not only material things, because that's part of being responsible and taking care of your family. That 100%. That's awesome. That's core. And the core thing is also what you pass down, right? In here,
yeah,
and what you build and what you proliferate and what, the seeds that you sow in this lifetime, which is ultimately a reflection of how you choose to be all of it. Bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bro.
Shit, man. We dive in. I'm just grateful, man. It's me too. This is it's all up, you said it's
yeah,
man. I'm good. I'm saying this is actually really. Yeah. I'm really grateful because I'm healing, bro.
Yeah.
This is actually healing me because I'm able to talk about myself in a way where no judgment and just being fully just letting go everything, bro. It's I'm just speechless because I'm just so grateful. This been a long way, and I'm saying it's and it's purposeful. It's very purposeful.
Yeah.
And there's so many times that people ask me to be in the podcast and everything, but this is mad. This is unbelievable, bro. This is just the fact that I can do it with my brother.
Yeah.
That's 100%, bro. And maybe the next time we're gonna talk about love. But I want to be in 80s and 90s and early 2000s love, bro. That's not what I want. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel that.
It's nowadays it's just everything. You don't do that anymore, bro.
Hey, let's just, I'm all about the reframe coming out in 2024, man. But let's create a new iteration of love. What does 2024, 2025 love look like? And can we be the lens of that, the new lens of love? Right? Because, that nostalgia, even going back there, some of that stuff, some of that's would we really go back? No, but there was something.
Yeah.
Something special there.
Yes, absolutely.
And so that's the big thing is that there was what we're realizing through experiencing this polarity of just absolute nonsense is we're seeing and being able to be grateful for what once was and seeing the gems in it. And then we're taking that back and refining it rather than destroying it.
Absolutely.
Because of the destruction of the thing, we're just seeing chaos and anarchy. We're whoa.
That's exactly what's I've been wanting to just manifest this, you know what I'm saying? Is the detail of those 80s, 90s, and early 2000s that we grew up with.
Choose a box.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that alone, it's just for us now is man, I'll kind of reminiscence, right? That time and I do too. You know what I'm saying? Well, just simple as just opening the doors for a person.
Chivalry. I mean,
chivalry.
Yeah,
simple things.
And we're getting there. There's magic, once again, letting the individual suffer, letting the child touch the life. Very sure. My dad let me touch a knife when I was a kid. And I split my thumb right open. I was like, what the fuck? Why'd you let me do that? I was never doing that.
I did, right?
It was understanding these boundaries, understanding feeling the heat. So we can be whoa, okay, I got burned a little bit. I need to step away from the fire. And the interesting thing is that there's some polarizing talks that are some of these girls who, let's say we're talking about when they can't do something like that. And it's oh, you realize you've destroyed yourself
and no man will never love you and you'll never find a husband. I see the argument there. And do I necessarily want to be with a woman who's done and has an OnlyFans? No. And yet some of the most powerful, most intelligent, and not just intelligent in the space of books, but like in a space of spiritual understanding and like wisdom, women have come from the sex industry or have been stripper, like some of the best womb healers.
Yes.
Like women who like you know why? Because you got to go through trauma in order to learn how to heal it yourself. And then you can be a teacher and then you can be a guide.
Facts.
And so what's interesting is that like, yes, although that's messy, and although if they, were to keep maintaining that same delusion of like, I'm empowered by doing this work that is, desecrating something sacred or what have you, that wouldn't bode well towards a long-term relationship. However, it does create the potentiality for very potent individuals in women vessels to be very, to cultivate intelligence in a way that can bring us into that new age, which is fascinating to think about because right now we're in the messiness of it. And you have these also like, like although Andrew Tate makes some good points for men, like the way that he accomplishes wealth and all these things, and the way that there's this hyper masculinity coming out, it's like, all these distortions of how to be, all creating a scenario so that we can then face that darkness and then have the opportunity to rise above it, triumph above it, learn from it.
Yeah.
Right. Wild time, my guy. And as much as like, I get it, nostalgia, sure. And yet it's like, we've grown now, like, operating in it and learning how to navigate it. And also the reason why you're on this podcast is because you are one of the leaders of this new age and this new world. And you're doing so through every step you walk and every breath you take and every action you make. And it's led you to here where what we're doing right now is not just eternalizing a conversation, but we are creating a spout, a well spout for medicine.
Yeah.
Because this talk was medicine. Whoever watches this, if you've made it this far, obviously, like you've enjoyed it because we've been talking for how long. But two, like, thank you, and please share it. And even if you don't share it, I hope that you've been able to benefit from this because I have. And me too. This is the most authentic. Yeah, this is the awareness.
Yeah,
this is it, and it doesn't belong to anyone.
No.
This doesn't belong to anyone. This is just human consciousness progressing and us being the benchmark or a benchmark in it and expressing that so that we can continue to progress as a whole. Because everything we're experiencing now, all the money, like you said, and all the other things we take with us, it's all about us connecting with the ones we love. It's all about leaving a legacy. It's all about doing the work so that we don't pass on muddy, messy things to our progeny and to live a life that we can be proud of. And be grateful.
Amen to that, brother.
Thank you, though. Want to get something to eat?
Yes, let's get it.
Yo, we're about to get some grub.
And I'm just grateful for this man. I'm just speechless. I'm here just.
Yeah, let's take a deep breath.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Deep bows. Deep bows. This has been the Magnanimous Collective. First episode christened with my guy, the Sultan himself, Agung Wimboprasetyo from Indonesia. Good Vibe Society. Check them out down below. Check them out at which stores?
Sprouts, Nationwide, and Wholefoods, sir. So
you're about to be able to get this delivered to you. It's amazing. Check out his Insta. What's your Insta?
Good Vibe Society, bro.
Hey. We're in it, guys. Look forward to the next one. And you'll be seeing him again, I assure you. So thank you all for tuning in. And thank you, my guy. Yeah. So let's get some grub.
Thank you. Bro, that shaker was...